The purpose of this video is to give you a tutorial on how to complete solid modeling exercise number 1. I'm going to do this for the example problem. Let me get that started. Start a new file, part file. I'm going to get into the units that I want to be in now, millimeters. On the way up here, I'm going to stop and turn on my planes because I like to look at those. And then I'm going to save this as, let's call it SM1 example. All right, so now we're set up, ready to go on this. Okay, this is if you're looking at solid modeling exercise number 1, the handout, revision 2, it's the example sketch from visualization number 1 that I'm going to do right now. Okay, so I'm going to create an extrusion. It's going to ask me what plane I want to do that on. I'm going to choose the top plane. And the reason why I'm choosing the top plane, by the way, so I'm trying to keep track of where the origin is, and that I want that origin to be in a particular place on the part that I'm going to make. And I want that to be, as I'm looking at the hand sketch, the point that's kind of closest to me. So that's why I've chosen to draw on the top plane. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of click near the origin. I don't really care that this looks like a square or doesn't look like a square yet, because I can control that nicely by using the Smart Dimension feature and simply turning this into what I want to turn it into, which is a 1-unit cube. Eventually I'm going to extrude this up into a 1-unit cube. Importantly, I'm checking down here at the very bottom. It says I'm fully defined, so I'm good to go on that. Now I want to extrude that up 1 unit, and since this box was already highlighted, I could just type into my keyboard what I wanted, and in the event that it was not highlighted, I just have to go in there and switch it to whatever I wanted to switch it to. In this case, though, I just want it to be 1. Hit the green check to say that you want that, and there's my first box of mini boxes that I need to make. So let me just blast through now and make a bunch of these other boxes. I'm clicking this button here so I can look normal to the plane. I like to do my sketches normal to the plane. Now there's something I'm going to do right here, which is I've drawn a box not anywhere near where the box needs to be, and this is often how I will do this because I want to be in control of all the dimensions here. And so I'm just quickly clicking on the side, setting it equal to 1. Even if I think it's already close to 1, I need to go in and do this to make sure it's precisely 1. And then I've just got the size of this box worked out now. Now I'm going to work on the placement of the box. So I'm going to make sure that this edge is a certain distance from the right plane. And that distance that I want that to be is 1 unit away. And then there's 2 options here. I could take this edge and say that I want this edge to be 0 units away from the front plane. Oops. Okay. 0 units away from the front plane. And that will make me fully constrained. Or there's another way I can do that, which I'll show you in a minute. But I can see down here at the bottom I'm fully defined, so I'm good to go on that. And the extrusion value that was last used will be shown again, which is what's being shown now. It turns out that's exactly what I want, so I'm going to take that. Okay, and now I'm going to just keep doing this just as I did in the drawings. This is not really the efficient way to make this kind of part, but for the purpose of exercising, that's what we're going to do. So now I'm going to look normal to sketch 3 and draw another box. Okay, see, I can make this. There's some certain relationships I can do, like making these collinear or coincident and stuff like that. I'll make that one coincident just to see how that works. Okay, I want that to be set to 1. Okay, and then I want this distance over here to be set to 1 as well. Now I'm fully defined down here at the bottom, and I take that, and that's going in the direction that I want, so I accept it. Now if I look at this, I'm looking at it from the perspective that I did the hand sketch. That means I have parts I want to extrude out into this area now. So I'm keeping track of the orientation of my part while I'm doing that. I'm going to make another extrusion, and it's going to need a box somewhere in this area. Just going to quickly dimension this thing to be what I want it to be, 1 and 1. And then I need to place this box in space where I want it to be. I want it to be 1 unit away from the right plane, and I want this edge, I want this edge to be 1 unit away from the front plane. Okay, now I'm fully defined, I'm good to go. And in this case, looking at my sketch, I want this to be extruded up 2 units. Not 1 unit, but 2 units. So now, it's starting to look like what I want it to look like. Okay, now I just have, a handful more of these to do, doing the same exact kind of process I was using before. Okay, I guess I could do that. That was a little bit of an accident to make it that small, but no big deal. I can just fix it by doing this. Now I got my size the way I want it to. I need to place it in space. Now I can place it relative to these other features, but the bottom line is that I want to place it relative to things that I know are not going to change in the model. And my planes, my main planes, are not going to change in the model. So I'm going to be referencing off that the best that I can. Can't always do that, but when you can, I believe that that makes sense. And we want this one to be extruded up just 1 millimeter. Okay, and there we go. Now we're getting closer and closer to looking the way that we want to for this part, and that's not the orientation that I wanted it to be in. This is the orientation I want it to be in. Okay, so that's the same orientation I sketched it in, and now I need an extrusion up on that side. So now for this one, I'm gonna get that boss base extruded on sketch 6, or at least defined on sketch 6. Okay, and I'm just now going to size the part, or size the feature, and then I'm going to place the feature. And I'm going to place it relative to what I care about, relative to what I think is not going to move, and that was not the right number, so I can double click on that, and now move it, okay? And then I'm going to place it here in this other direction. Okay, that's not working the way that I want that to. Okay, I want this and this. I'm doing a great job here. Good thing is all parametric. I can just keep clicking on it and changing stuff. Okay, so that's what I want that sketch to look like. And this is great actually because it looks like we're just about done. So this one needs to extrude up 3 units. Okay, so now we have a part that is pretty much just like our sketch. If I turn off that, now it's looking pretty much identical to our sketch. So I'm gonna make sure we save this so we don't lose anything. Now the next part, and reading the assignment here, okay, I build the solid model. In this case, I did the extruded version up. Okay, now I want to assign a material, and I want to assign aluminum 6061 T4. And so I'm going to go over to the design tree, and I'm going to right-click on material and edit the material. And then there's a whole set of materials here. These are all steels. I don't want a steel. I want an aluminum. And I want the aluminum 6061 T4. And there it is, 6061 T4. I'm going to say apply and close. So now my product actually appears slightly differently because of the material choice. So for example, I can make that way more obvious by going in and editing the material and switching this to a plastic. PCABS is a clear plastic, and we can see that my part now is clear. So as you assign those materials, so do the visual properties of the part change. So I don't actually want it to be plastic, I want it to be aluminum, and I need it to be that aluminum 6061 T4, and so I'm back to that, and now that's what that looks like. So I've applied the material. That's great. Now I get to evaluate the mass properties and see if it's right. So I'm in units of millimeters. I always like to guess beforehand. It will help me to verify that my thinking is right. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3 cubes, 4, 5 cubes, 6, 7, 8, 9 cubes. I should be 9 cubic millimeters here. If I want to find out that, I'm going to go over to the evaluation tab. I'm going to go to mass properties, and I'm going to look right here, and I'm 9 cubic millimeters, just as I had hoped it would be. Now there's a mass associated with this because there's a density associated with AL6061. And so the mass properties do that, and it helps us to know how good or bad our model is. So looking at the assignment now, it's time for me to make a simple part drawing for this thing. So I'm going to save this part because we're kind of done with that part. I'm now going to start a new kind of file. It's the drawing file. And when I go to the drawing file, I get to use the B-size drawing, which is what we need. And then I need to browse for my mechanical engineering template that was shared out with everyone. And now that format, that drawing format, the sheet format, and the template have come in, and I now have the option to pick which product I want to go into this drawing, and indeed it is this one that I want. So I'm going to double click on that, and then I'm going to go right here and say that I want multiple views, and I want an ISO view, isometric view, front view, top view, and right view to come in to this thing. Now also, the thing that's really important to pay attention to here is that we use the part that we've made is very tiny. It's 1 millimeter wide, basically. So I want to make sure that I'm representing the scale properly, and I'm going to use a 16 by 1 scale, meaning the actual part will be 16 times bigger in the drawing. It will appear 16 times bigger when it's printed than how it actually is. So over here you can see these boxes have shown up that are representation of where my views are going to go. And I've accepted that. So now my views are in here. I've got my ISO, my front, my top, and my right. And if you want to move these around, which you need to, because this is not a good orientation for them to be in right now. It's not good for the ISO to be exactly where it is right now. You need to take the front view and move everything around based on the front view. If I want to move the top view, I'm constrained to only moving in this one direction, which is up and down. And so here, I'm going to move over to kind of the side. I'm going to get this thing over here so it's not crowding the title block. And then I'm going to get the ISO image and pop that one back there. All right, so now I've got my basic views laid out, and it's time for me to do some dimensioning. And what I need to imagine is what's going on in each of these views. I'm going to use the Smart Dimension tool, and I'm going to pick a line that I want to dimension, and I'm going to come out here and put it right where I want it. Now I'm realizing, because of the number that's here, that I'm in the wrong units on this sheet, and that kind of bothers me. Well, I mean, it should not be that way, so I'm going to go to millimeters and click it, and that's good. It's just switched it to millimeters. So in a drawing environment, it's pretty easy to go between units. Okay, so I'm looking now at the top view, and I need to imagine what needs to be defined by the top view. It needs, in terms of dimensions, this distance and this distance and this distance and this distance need to be defined. And so I'm going to do that now by either clicking the line and pulling out there, or I'm going to click on here and click on, just escape out of that, click on another line that I want to look at and get a dimension. And I'm just gonna keep doing this, placing these nicely relative to each other so that they look clean and professional. Okay, so I've defined all of those pieces. Now in this view, what things do I need to define? I need to define this length because it doesn't appear on any other sketch, first of all. And then whatever's going on with these, the placement of these pieces also needs to be defined in this sketch. Excuse me, in this view. So I'm going to come in here and click these. Okay, I've lost that one. Okay, and then I do not want to put a dimension from here to here because it's already defined down here. And I don't want to over-define things. Now, why this 1 has showed up over here, I'm not entirely liking that. I think that might have been a mistake a minute ago. Where it should be is really over here, close to the feature that we're measuring. See, over here it's not close to the feature. Over here it is close to the feature. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Then we need to say in the front view, what do we need to know from the front view that we've not defined yet? We have not, we have defined the height of this. That's this one right over here. But we've not defined the height of this one, which is the height of this. So we can come in here and do that. Okay, that's 2 millimeters. And we have not defined anywhere the overall height of this piece. So we're going to do it like that. All right, now we are fully dimensioned and things are looking pretty good. I can move these around if I want. I move it over just a little bit so it doesn't crowd so much. And to me, that's looking pretty good. Now our title block is not filled in, so we need to fill in our title block. The way we're going to do that is go to File and into Properties, and under the Customs tab, we have all kinds of things we can fill in right here. Our units are millimeters. Our title is, I'm going to call it part, whoops, I'm going to call it part example for SM1. SM1. The drawing date is 09 January 2019. The material is AL 6061 T4. The person who drew this was me, C. Matson. And the scale we used was 16 by 1. Now all of this information has been populated over here, and I'm just looking to see that things are looking pretty good, and they are. So we're going to save that. And I believe we are done. And that's what you need to do for each of those parts from the visualization exercise number 1. All right, good luck. Hope that helps.